Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Howard, how's it going?
Fine, how are you?
Good to see you.
Good, good. So you're going to take us through an inspection today?
Yes, I realize that you're going to be responsible for educating other people
Right.
in your network of childcare facilities. So one thing I want to just give you a quick run through of the way we try to approach a pest problem.
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay,
So
so the first thing we do is we really try to think like a pest.
Let's do that.
Well, pests look at the environment differently than we do.
Right.
Okay, so what they are seeking is entry into the building,
Right.
and they are looking for food, water, and shelter.
Oh, okay.
So instead of waiting and reacting to a pest problem, we're looking to prevent by identifying these areas.
So if we can eliminate those three things, then we pretty much
90% of your pest management is done.
Okay, well, let's do it.
So usually the first thing we look for, when we're looking about what a pest might be looking for, we look down, up, and all around.
Okay.
Because to a pest, it's a three-dimensional world.
Right.
So they may be coming in from some place we're not even looking at.
Right.
And so our first thing is looking at points of entry. So most pests come in the same way we come in.
Sure.
Through the door.
Right.
But they're a lot smaller, so they come in down here.
Okay.
So the situation like this that we see on this door, you can see daylight coming through this door.
Yeah, just see a small one.
You could see, if you look down, you could see significant amount of daylight in the corners
Right.
and in the center.
Right.
And this is very common. Doors take a beating. But I'll tell you what, the fall of the year, you're going to get mice coming in these spaces.
Right.
A mouse can fit through a space as small as a dime. And so, again, you wouldn't immediately notice that there's something going on with this door unless you were thinking like a pest.
Right.
So thinking like a pest, you look down,
Right.
and that's the first thing I noticed there. So the recommendation for a facility who has a situation like this would be contact their facilities manager
Right.
or whoever's responsible for upkeep of the building
Right.
and put on new door sweeps.
That's probably standard practice.
And that actually helps with energy savings and everything else too.
Yeah,
So-
because the winter's coming and you don't want for the heat to
Exactly.
escape. Or the little critters to get in.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
That makes sense.
the other thing, and then looking up, the next possible thing we might see is the window.
Right.
Now, what you would want to assess if you just look at it, in a quick fashion, you may not notice anything, but sometimes you have to look more closely.
Okay.
Is the window jamb intact, which it looks pretty good. There is a little crack here.
Okay.
Any kind of thing where the integrity of the window has been compromised.
Okay.
Because many pests, like little tiny gnats and flies, I mean, they can fit through these very small spaces.
Okay.
So you want to make sure the whole window is in good repair, all up and down, all the way to the top.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. And also the good thing about this window, the screen is intact.
Okay.
A lot of times there'll be a little tear in the screen, and then people say, "Oh, I want my exterminator to get over here and spray for flies." Well, meanwhile, you got a hole in the screen.
So you'll never kill as many
Exactly.
flies as getting the screen
Exactly.
in order, right?
So really, it's not rocket science. It's just kind of looking at the world of your building from the point of view of a pest.
Okay.
Looking down, I see the ventilation system.
Okay.
I see this. Now, this may not be problematic, but it is compromised somewhat. These things are broken. From the point of view of, mice, this is an opportunity.
Okay.
Anything broken like that. Now, you don't know if they're getting in. You have to look on the outside where
Right.
your ventilation system opens to.
Right.
But in this kind of situation, you might say that could be suspect. If you're having a mouse problem, you might be looking at a place like this.
Okay. What would you recommend as far as, I mean, of course we want to replace this if necessary, but what's a temporary fix while you're
Yes,
getting the rest of
you
it?
can always put just screening over it of some
Okay.
kind. Some
Okay.
kind of screening that would eliminate the ability of them to actually enter the building.
Okay.
So, of course, you always look for general cleanliness and that sort of thing, and things look pretty good here.
Thank you.
The walk-off mat is good. When children walk in, any debris or anything they may be dragging in on their shoes gets deposited first on the mat. That's a
Sure.
great practice right there. And then looking around, too, around the edges, we make sure that there's no cracks in the wall or anything. This looks nice. The wall looks good.
Good.
I do notice, though, the garbage can is up against the wall, which is fine as long as this is emptied every day.
Okay.
And it has no cover on it.
Okay.
So the reason the wall is significant here is because mice, roaches, and everything else love to run against the wall.
Got it.
So a lot of times in facilities where you can't remove the big garbage cans, we recommend they move away from the wall.
Got
Because
it.
this,
So even
just
something like that?
like this.
That's simple.
That's simple because it really helps. Of course, you would if you're leaving this overnight and not emptying it, you want
Right.
a cover on it.
Right.
But let's say in that case. Just simple things like that make access by pests much more difficult.
Okay, so do they like run up the wall to
Yes.
get to the...
Yes. And they can sort of wedge them, they may be running along the crack and they run up the hardware, the woodwork. And then, you look in here and if there's any food material, which there's wrappers of candy bars and stuff like that in there.
Right.
That's a perfect opportunity.
Okay.
The day-nighttime business, the reason that's important is most of the pests they prefer to be out at night. Mm-hmm. So you may not notice that this is a problem in the day.
Right.
But at night, at night they may be saying, "Dang,
they're having a party.
Let's go over to that garbage can.
They're having a party.
It's got Oreos in it."
Yeah. I can understand.
They would like so.
So something as simple as just moving it.
Yes.
To an area where it doesn't have access
exactly.
to the walls.
It instantly makes it less accessible to the pests. I mean,
it's perfect.
I know it seems like such a little thing, but a lot of these are just little things.
That's the beauty of it, because
think like a pest.
Right. The beauty of it is that there's no cost to this. It's just
exactly. So when you implement your protocols that everyone follows, it becomes standard operating.
Because sometimes folks get really nervous, like how much is this going to cost me? Do I have to bring in a specialist? Do I have to do this? But when we show them things like that, it really makes it that much more
exactly. And your building maintenance is something you want to be doing anyhow.
Sure.
So this entryway looks good. I don't see any other, cracks, crevices, anything they might get in. So let's have a look at the kitchen.
Let's go to the kitchen.
All right.
Yes, here we are in the kitchen.
This kitchen looks really, really great.
Why, thank you.
I don't think we're going to see too many pest problems in here. It looks very clean. It's very well put together.
What are the problem spots that most people tend to, like you did with the trash can?
If you think about a pest again, think like a pest.
Less pest, yeah.
They're looking for food and water primarily.
Okay.
So first you look at how anything that a pest could use as food is contained.
Okay.
And now some people think, okay, yes, I keep my sandwich inside a container. That's great, or inside the refrigerator. Right. But to a pest, this is food also. Mm-hmm. So you always have to consider if you're having a pest problem. For example, here we have up against the wall again. Mm-hmm. We have this container. Cardboard. Now this may be going into recycling, I'm not sure, but cardboard is something that is a vector, if you will. It brings in roaches.
Really?
So many places at warehouses where food is stored in cardboard boxes, these little tiny holes in this cardboard, they like to hide in there. So we recommend that any place that brings supplies in cardboard, they take the stuff out of the cardboard and immediately remove the cardboard from the facility.
That's really great advice, because in most cases you have these recyclable receptacles and people use them until it's time to take it out.
Exactly.
But if you know that this is something that they hide in automatically, it's just drop and take it directly out.
It's not so bad, like they come in the morning and they go out when people leave in the day, because like I said, most of these pests are nocturnal, so they'll hide in the day.
Okay.
But as soon
if
as
they leave overnight,
as soon as they can take this out, the better. Not only because you've got this nice cereal box in here, which is providing them with crumbs and things to eat in the meantime.
Right.
So, you need to be aware of food sources and harborage. We refer to this as harborage, where the pests are.
So as long as we keep active maintenance as far as making sure things come in and come out.
Standard operating procedure, cardboard specifically, out the door.
Okay, cardboard's out.
The trash cans. Now, this is good in terms of accessibility, and it does cover it somewhat, but it's not a tight-fitting lid.
Okay.
So what happens sometimes in these cases is that, say, for example, somebody comes here, they throw banana peel in here.
Right.
Well, fruit flies, this is nothing to them.
Because they
can go right in there.
Yeah.
And if it's not taken out regularly, then a lot of times people will see a pest, they'll see the fruit fly, and they'll say, oh, we got to spray something with these fruit flies. And you have to think more like a detective, like, wait, where are they coming from?
Right.
Because otherwise you spray and they're still coming.
Right.
So,
because they have a food source.
Right. So we like to recommend that any kind of place where there's food going to be in the garbage, that it's a tight-fitting lid.
Okay.
Not a lid like this. I mean, it's better than no lid.
Right.
And it's kept clean, obviously.
Right.
So that's not really an issue. So, but that would be our recommendation. Next time the facilities get garbage cans, get tight-fitting lids.
Got it.
The other thing that happens with garbage cans is that plastic liners are great as long as they don't get holes in the bottom. And sometimes what happens, they'll say, well, we empty the garbage religiously.
Right.
Why are we still getting fruit flies? And we have to say, well, pest detective, go one step deeper. Look under the garbage bag.
Right.
So when you take the bag out, a lot of times it may end up being the situation that underneath the bag is residue left in the bottom of the trash can, which in this case is clean.
Yep.
Your people are doing an excellent job.
Great, thank you.
But it's a very easy thing to overlook.
Sure.
And it's a very simple solution for certain pest problems. So.
Sure. Well, once again, these are very simple remedies.
Yes.
And it saves you on buying all different types of pesticides.
Oh, well.
Because you're spraying more than you're actually getting to the root cause.
Exactly.
And that's where we want to get to.
Exactly. You don't want to treat a symptom. You want to go straight to the cause.
Absolutely.
So the other thing we would look at, the water source. I mean, of course, there's going to be water left in the sink this way, but what we're really looking for is if there's any chronic leaks, any seals that are not completely sealed, because the insects like to hide behind seals that are not fixed, and then they may be getting water sources from that sort of thing. So what's good here is there's no drip. The faucet's not dripping. It's not leaking around the base.
Right.
The stuff around the edge here is kept clean, the edges, because sometimes it's flush with the surface.
Right.
So really what you're trying to make sure is there's no place for pests to hide.
Right.
They can't hide here. And then you always look behind the scenes, like you may look. This is good. Child locks, very nice.
There it is, child locks.
Yes, and you look down in here, and you make sure it's dry. There's no leaks. You look behind things. You don't just look at it, a superficial way. Everything's clean and dry in here. There's a can of Raid back there.
Right.
Now, what that probably means is somebody here on staff has that Raid available for if they see a pest. This is a big no-no.
Okay.
And the reason it's a no-no is they may be trying to solve a problem without looking at the actual cause.
Right.
And they're not communicating with you.
Right.
You need to know if there's a problem that needs a real solution.
Right.
So that's the first no-no about this, because we're not getting a solution. We're just treating the symptom.
Right.
The other thing is this is a child care facility, so you don't want any aerosol spray used around the children anywhere, anytime.
Right.
Because it leaves surface residues on things. And also, it is actually technically illegal for someone who is in a child care facility to apply pesticide unless they're a licensed pesticide applicator.
Right.
So what you'll want to have in your protocol and your education system is to make sure that people understand this, and that there's a system for them to report a pest if they have one.
Right.
So that you don't have this situation. Another issue with these is that if you contract with a qualified pest control company to handle your pest problems, they will use least toxic baits. Like they'll put a bait in here that if a cockroach came, it would eat that bait and then die.
Got it.
If someone is spraying, it repels the cockroaches and they won't go to the bait.
Right.
So what you're doing is working in contra purpose, so to speak.
Right.
You're working against yourself when you hire a professional and they know what they're doing, and then your staff come in the day and spray this stuff.
Right. So, number one, this gets removed.
Exactly.
Number two, then they have to report that there are pests, and then they would then manage those pests.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the typical reaction, we talked about this off camera as well, is that people tend to treat it as though it's their own home.
Exactly.
As opposed to this is a facility.
Exactly.
So those are one of those things where you just have to, once again, with the professional development, just say, folks, this is not allowable. And we have to deal with it. And the other thing is that some people don't even report. They might see something, snap it, and then keep on going.
Yes. So many facilities have what we call a pest sighting log. And so there's some person in that building who's aware they're the contact person.
Good.
So let's say, John or Jane Q, employee sees a cockroach in the kitchen. What they will do is go to the contact person.
Right.
Say, I saw a pest in the kitchen under the sink.
That's so much better.
Yes, and then the person who's contact knows who they're supposed to contact.
Exactly, because sometimes they forget.
Exactly.
Or they're caught up with other things. And then once again, it's to move it from a more informal to a more formal procedure.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So let's put that in the trash, shall we?
Well, what we should do
or how do we dispose of it?
Yes, that's
the better question.
a very good question. Typically, this still has content in it. It's aerosol, so it's under pressure. So what we recommend people do, most municipalities, counties, every year have at least 1 or 2 days where they accept, what do they call them? They accept hazardous household waste.
Okay.
It's a little bit ironic. I mean, anybody can buy this off the shelf.
Right.
And you can throw it in the garbage, but it's a toxic chemical and it's under pressure. Mm-hmm. And so you don't really want to put anybody else at danger.
Right.
Yeah, and so what we recommend is they be locked away in a safe place, anything you may want to get rid of.
Right.
And that it's a community effort when the day comes, and here in the city, yes, where they accept the stuff, because they dispose of them all properly.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is you remove this, educate,
right,
put it under lock and key someplace with other things you may, when you do an assessment of your facility, you may want to get rid of, and then do it all one shot.
Sounds great.
So.
Sounds great. And should we post signs of any sort, no pesticides or something like that? I mean, once again, it's an education process, and it takes time for people to move out of their home practices into formal practices.
Whatever works in your facility. If you have a sign here, say, make sure to notify the appropriate person if a pest is cited.
Perfect. That's great.
And that way they say, well, what do you mean?
Right.
Who's the proper person? So, because in these centers, often you have high turnover, you have new people, maybe they miss the training.
Because we have it for hand washing, we have it for other things as far as communicable diseases, so you definitely want to do it for pests as well.
Exactly, but generally,
generally
speaking, that looks very good. The only other thing I would say, see that hole in the back?
Yeah.
Now that's for access to, looks like the electricity.
Right.
But I would still cover that with something.
Absolutely.
Because mice love that. Mm-hmm. Like they can come in behind the wall and they're,
with you.
Oh, here's where the water is. Here's where the food crumbs may be.
Right.
So the mice love that.
But we don't see any droppings.
No, we don't. Now, if you did, what I would recommend is sometimes, maybe you don't look down here every day. I mean, why would you?
Right.
So this is a good place to set out traps as monitors. And what a monitor is an early warning system. They're your eyes when your eyes can't be there.
Right.
So
because they come out at night and we're not here.
Exactly. And then you may not think to look in here.
Right.
So we have two types of monitors I want to show you that, and you can use these legally in your centers. That gives you an early warning system.
Okay.
So let me show you what those are and how you might set them. Have a couple of them with me. They're up here. Yeah, I set them here so we wouldn't trip on them.
That's good.
Okay, now one thing you could do is underneath this cabinet, you might set a mouse trap.
Okay.
We recommend the actual mechanical mouse traps. Some people use glue boards. We don't really recommend glue boards because a mouse gets on it and gets stuck, and then they're still alive.
Oh, and that's horrible.
It's bad. They're crying, they're stuck, and it's potentially dangerous because how do you handle that?
True.
If you pick that sticky trap up, they may bite you. They're still there, spreading dander and all the stuff that mice have. Whereas these are instant kill. So the mouse is humanely dispensed with.
Okay.
And you never have to touch the mouse. So here's how it works. You set it easily like this. You just pull the trigger back and link it. You've never snapped your fingers. It's
so much better than those wooden traps.
I know. I love these traps.
I've been snapped so many times by the wooden traps. It's you don't even want to handle them after a while because you got bruises more so than anything else.
Then let's use your pen, and let's say this is mouse, chinky, 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 and it has to step on the paddle to get to the bait, which you have placed in this little well.
Oh, okay.
You see how they can't steal it. They can't get under it.
They're smart. They're smart.
They're smart. Okay. So they have to step on this paddle to get to the food, and it's a big paddle, so you got to have a high surface area to catch them.
Right.
So it's going to snap now. You do like this. Oops, it's supposed to snap now. Toink. Okay.
Okay.
So now we have caught the mouse. In order to dispose of the mouse, you can go outside to the dumpster or what have you, and all you have to do is push back on the trigger. Mouse is released. Whoops, lost your pen. Mouse is released. You never had to touch the mouse.
Wow.
And then the food's still there, so you can reset it.
Wow.
And then you're back.
Wow. Okay. How much do those cost?
Oh, they're cheap. You can get them by the case, 12 or 24 the case. There's a lot of different companies that produce this new style, and you can just look online if you can't find them locally.
Because I noticed that, some staff, they will not come near anything that looks dead. It's dead, it's gone.
It's sort of like a designated driver.
Yeah,
you can have your designated mousetrap checker.
Right, I can imagine just saying, and then we go out to the trash and we actually drop it into the... So if they're afraid, if anyone's afraid of actually trying to handle it, is there another way?
Well, they can just go have somebody in your facility who's willing to do the work.
Okay.
So
that pest contact person.
Exactly. Okay. That person knows what to do if there's a mouse found in the trap.
Okay.
Good.
And
you do want to check these from time to time. Like even if you you contract pest control services, they can't come every day.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
That's true.
So you want somebody to check these once in a while, because one thing you really don't want is a stinky dead mouse.
Yeah.
You know, dead mouse is one thing, a stinky dead mouse is another.
This is another thing, yeah.
And when you set this, you will set this in areas where that might be mouse prone.
Now, are there techniques among where to set it, where they're more likely to go?
Absolutely.
So what does that look like?
So the first thing to know about mice is they run along the wall.
Okay.
So you wouldn't set it out in the middle of the room.
Right.
And also, because they run along the wall, let's just say, this is the wall. Now, you'd never set it out here where people could contact it. You're going to put it down where the mice might be in a safe place.
Okay.
But just in terms of positioning, so you set the trap, and you set it so the trigger would snap up against the wall, like that. Now the reason for that is because mice run on the wall, they're either going to be coming from this way or this way.
Oh, okay.
So you have a 100% chance. If it's running along that wall, you can get it. If you set the trap away from the wall, they may decide it looks suspicious, I'm not going to deal with it, and they run right past it. If you
Even though they smell the bait?
Yes, you know, you want to put it as maximum effectiveness.
Got it.
If you put it this way, you have a 50% chance of catching the mouse because it could be coming this way or that way.
Got it.
If it runs over and accidentally trips it, like you said, they are smart. They're like, I don't know what that thing is, but I'm not going back there.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So this is the way you set the mousetrap for maximum effectiveness.
Right, because I remember that movie, the Mousetrap, and the guy destroyed a whole house trying to get one mouse, and so we want to make this as easy for everyone
exactly.
as possible.
So where you would set it, for example, would be in this cabinet against the back wall near where that hole is.
Right.
Because you're already thinking like a pest, saying if that mouse comes in, that's where it's going to come in.
Where it's most likely to go.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the same is true for the roach traps. Roaches, this is just one model of roach trap, and they're a sticky trap. And, you know, we like some of these smaller roach ones because typically mice don't get in them. And some of the roach traps can actually be stuck on the wall. So there's a lot of different models of roach traps.
Okay.
And they will catch actually any crawling insect. It's like a little tent, and when you unfold it and set it up, it has this stuff you pull off. You know, I'm not going to do that or we'll get stuck to it.
Yeah.
But it has a paper that you pull off so that it's sticky.
Okay.
And you build a little tent with it. And the same thing, you stick it back against the sides like this, either this way or this way. So a lot of times you'll put it behind the refrigerator, behind the stove, on the edge of where the stove is, because that's where they run, against the wall, where there might be food.
Okay.
And that's your early warning system. And so people may say, well, I don't want to set a trap. It's going to imply that we have pests in here. It's like, no, that's your monitoring system.
Got it.
That's like your radar, insect radar.
Got it.
And then that way you'll know, like you say, you have several set out in places that are susceptible to pests. And you'll say, we didn't catch anything over there. We never catch anything over there. But guess what? We always catch them back in that corner. So that's your cue to investigate further.
So, okay, now let's go back to children.
Okay.
And other children. This is out of the way, so we're pretty safe with that. We have child-proof locks, so we're with that. But this, would they be curious to poke at it? And
they would, and anything you place, like even when the pest control people place their baits or their gels, you have to put it in a place where kids can't see it, and preferably can't actually contact it.
Right.
They can't really be hurt by this. The worst thing that would happen is they get stuck to it.
Right.
But and there are
many
many
toxins in the sticky part?
Nothing at all. It's glue.
It's just glue.
It's just glue. And if a kid gets stuck to it, you can use cooking oil or whatever. It helps dissolve that and get it off, and then wash
Oh, well,
the kid
that's
off.
good. That's great.
So if a kid's walking around with the thing stuck to their forehead,
you might have immediate concern.
Yes,
but the
you might. Right.
concern's not there.
And also, this is a large one. There are many ones that are very small.
Okay.
And you can choose the type of sticky trap and work with your pest control provider because they have these things. Okay. Most places contract with a pest control provider, and you will be having this conversation with them.
Right. No, so Lynn, does this really get to? I mean, we were talking also before about people responding to the site, but getting to the root cause of where they are.
Yeah, what it
does this help us?
It absolutely helps you because it shows you where the symptoms are.
Okay.
Because any pest issue is a symptom of an underlying problem.
So if we find like maybe 2 or 3 in there, then what's our next step?
Yeah, then you're going to look more closely at what are the surrounding conditions where those finds have been.
Okay.
So what that means is there's something there that's either allowing them in or feeding them.
Okay.
Or watering them.
Okay, let's look at some possible feeding areas.
Yes.
We looked at the
we
water.
looked at water, we looked down here. Now another common place is if you have any kind of stove, which you don't have a stove in here, but you do have a microwave and a little cooker.
Yeah, we have convection ovens and little toaster ovens.
Yes. Now stoves are a big problem because big stoves, things fall behind them and you have to move the stove to look behind what's going on.
Got it.
But this is much easier to handle because these are small units. So the main thing about these units is you keep them cleaned out. You know, you can easily pull them out, you know, and see what's going on behind.
Right.
You know, make sure everything is sealed.
Right.
Everything is sealed. So they have no way. If they're going to come out here, they have to come out in the open. They don't like that.
Right.
So this is good. Everything is sealed. And everything looks quite clean. I don't see crumbs laying around. That you're doing everything you need to do here in this facility. I mean, there's not much in here at all. I've seen some of these that are a nightmare.
Oh, the kitchen nightmares.
The kitchen nightmares, right? So this. They have very good practices going on here, apparently.
Good.
Let's see what we have going on. This is cabinets with various kinds of foods in it. Now, for example, you may eventually, something like all-purpose flour, I don't know if that's used for eating or making glue with the kids, but that's the kind of thing that doesn't often get used quickly.
Right.
And because plastic containers, you know, with tight-fitting lids.
Right.
Because this sort of thing, you can start getting kitchen moths, you know, the pests that are in the moths. So anything that's going to be in the kitchen a long time, you know, high turnover stuff is somewhat less of an issue.
Right.
You know, if it was chocolate chip cookies, it's not staying there very long.
Are there particular pests that are attracted to specific type of foods?
Exactly, there are. In the case of stored product pests, they call them, meaning dried beans, flour, rice, all that kind of stuff. You keep those in tight-fitting containers because there's certain species of beetles and moths that are attracted to the smell of that.
Got it.
And they can sometimes move in. What happens is they come in with a new product. Like, let's say you go to a bulk food store and you bring in, you say, you shovel in 2 pounds of flour and you bring it in. Well, a lot of times that flour brings the pest in.
Wow.
And once they're in there, then they just, oh boy.
Yeah.
All this other good stuff.
Yeah, food fight. Yeah.
All this good stuff to eat. So, you know, it just depends. You all know how you're using things in these facilities. So something like this is not a good long-term storage. Right. You know, they can easily crawl up in there. I don't even know what these things are, but made fresh in USA. Dal. Okay, so it's like lentils. And
fried lentils. Yeah.
And as long as it's being used quickly and you don't see sign of pests, but generally speaking, we recommend that they be put in
plastic containers.
Plastic containers.
And once again, that's a low-cost remedy.
Yeah,
it's not something you go to a dollar store and
exactly.
You get those. That's not a problem.
Exactly.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, the staff has been pretty aware in keeping things tidy and neat, but we can always step it up another notch.
Yeah, just the ounce of prevention. Ounce of prevention, because once you get insects in here, then it's not a fun thing.
No.
And so if you can prevent that easily, it's always a good idea.
No, and I like the fact that, you know, we can give them some guidelines, but also, too, we can make it fun.
Yes.
You know, the kids can paint the containers.
Oh, yeah.
They can take the containers home.
Absolutely.
They can show it to their parents.
Well,
it's all kinds of
this fits in with what you were saying about involvement with the community.
Right.
Because you educate the children, and out of the mouths of little children, you know, they go home and they talk to their parents.
They have a way of changing behavior more so than the adults do.
You're right.
You know, when a child comes up to you and they say, you need to use this container, Mom, because this container keeps out the bugs.
Yeah.
You know, you're less likely to go, no. Okay, fine, we'll try it.
Exactly.
You know, that's a good thing. Exactly. It's a good thing.
Yeah, so this looks generally good, just a couple recommendations regarding the, you know, this stuff. And cups are all clean, another microwave. Microwaves can be like a little bit problematic.
And why's that?
Some of these things, when they're plugged in, they all often generate heat somewhere. And another thing the roaches in particular may be looking for is a warm place to just hang out. And so, and a lot of times the heat generated by these cooking implements also has food next to it. So if they can get everything in one place, one-stop shopping, they're happy to go there.
Oh, it's like a supermarket.
Exactly. So things like toasters, anything like that are plugged in and has heat element is a thing to be sure to be ultra clean.
Okay. And once again, with the pest management monitor, their responsibility can be go and just check these things on a regular basis.
Exactly.
And then bring it to people's attention.
When you hire a pest management professional in your facilities, and many facilities, childcare facilities have a landlord who makes those decisions. So once again, the communication becomes really important.
Right.
So if you communicate with the landlord, say we have children here, they're sensitive environment, we'd like to have IPM practiced in this facility.
Right.
Who do you work with to provide your pest control services, and try to work together with them to make sure that that is a really top-notch IPM provider.
Right.
Many pest management companies are, practicing IPM now, and some aren't.
Okay.
They aren't required to. So it's sort of a learning curve. Everybody needs to be learning at the same time.
Right.
And you as a person who's contracting with a hired, service, you want to make sure you're getting the service you want.
Absolutely. So that's why the professional development is so important, because it's not only just looking at where the potential problems may be, it's having the strategies on how to keep it prevented all year round.
Yes, and that everybody's on the same page.
Everyone's on the same page.
So your pest control provider, your staff, your administration office, everybody knows this is the way we do it here.
Right. And once again, going from that informal to a more formal practice.
Exactly.
It's always important.
So this looks good. I mean, the only thing, once again, the Cheerio, the oats,
plastic containers.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Tight-fitting lids.
Tight-fitting lids and something colorful where folks feel as though it's...
And I like this too, that, people have various things, but I like it kind of that it's open because you can see what's going on.
Right.
And I realize probably that's not why it was done, but that is helpful. Coffee maker, same thing, dripping water. You're always looking for any place where there might be water. The storage here is good, but you do have a cardboard box down here.
All right.
And I don't know what's in it, but generally speaking, you want to ban cardboard boxes.
Right, because
of the roaches.
Right.
Primarily German cockroach, and when you get those, they are a real pain to deal with.
Okay.
So
what's the difference? You mentioned a German cockroach. What makes them so difficult?
They're very small, and they reproduce very rapidly.
Okay.
So
is that a common pest? Or
yes, the German cockroach is extremely common. I mean, because they're all over the place, and like I say, they're often in warehouses and places where you might buy food where they put it in boxes and take it out.
Got it.
So you're helping them hitchhike into your facility, so you don't really want to do that.
Okay.
So we try to encourage people, don't try to take this into your own hands.
Right.
There are ways to do this in the safest, most effective way.
Right.
And we'll all be on board and do it that way.
Let's talk about that for a second, because once again, staff come in with different cultures. We have different cultures that are involved, especially in the city.
Yes.
And there are different cultures that have different aspects on how they look at pests and what pests are. And as you mentioned with the cotton ball, that might be a cultural piece. This is what we've always done. This is how we do it. I mean, how do you address those type of things without making people feel uncomfortable?
Yes, that's a very important question, because as we've mentioned before, anybody can get a pest. And we need to take away the stigma of it, first of all.
Right.
Because people are... they have very strong beliefs because of that. They're like, this is the way we always did it,
Right.
But you have to also help them understand that their own home is one thing, but a center where all children are together is another. They they can't bring these things in and implement them in a public place.
Right.
Also, we have to sometimes help them understand that some of the things, just because they're familiar with it, doesn't mean they're safe.
True.
And so, for example, here in Philadelphia, one of the things we did when we were developing our program of outreach education, we went and looked at the poison control data for Philadelphia.
Right.
And we sorted by zip code.
Right.
And we said, why are we getting so many poisonings due to mothballs? Kids are eating mothballs. I said, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah.
And it turns out that in certain communities, one of their standard practices is to crush up mothballs and sprinkle them along the baseboards, because they say it gets rid of roaches. Well, the fallacy to that is you don't get rid of roaches by putting something smelly down.
Right.
The roaches go where the food is, and they're going to continue to go where the food is. So the issue with mothballs, it turns out, unbeknownst to us, was this practice of crumbling the mothballs and putting them along the baseboards. The children of course they put everything in their mouth.
Sure.
They see this sparkly white stuff. It looks like candy to them, and so they're starting to eat it, and the parent realizes, they have no idea, and then they're like, ugh. And the parent doesn't know how much the child ingested, so they call poison control. Right. And this could be avoided. This could be avoided because, first of all, the awareness that these might be dangerous to children, and also the awareness that it doesn't really work.
Right.
If your definition of work is prevent and get rid of roaches.
Right. And then we were also talking about cultural sensitivity.
Yes.
Because some cultures have practices that are long-standing, practices that they have difficulty letting go or adjusting. So how do we deal with that?
Yes. I think the way to do that is really try to put people at ease about we're all here to solve the problem.
Right.
And that it's not a reflection of you, it's not a bad there may be sanitation issues, but you just want to approach it from the effective control of pests that is safe.
Right.
Usually when you talk to people about the safety of their children is when they come around. When you explain, yes, it seems like maybe this worked, but actually here in this environment, in this particular situation, what's really going to work are these safer methods. And once they see it, and if you raise their awareness about the potential harm to the children, that's usually what gets through.
And well, there's something we talked about a little bit earlier, and we actually found something on the base here.
Yes.
Want to go back over that?
Yeah,
let's see what that is again.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yes.
So there's a practice that the staff had that was really about the staff feeling good, and tell us a little bit about that again and why this needs to be adjusted.
Your staff had apparently were under the impression that if you take cotton balls and permeate them with peppermint oil, that will keep mice away, quote unquote.
So what's the fallacy with that?
Well, there's a couple things. One is, first of all, you're in a child care center, so you don't really want things to look like marshmallows laying around the child care center, because kids are going to do what?
Put them in their mouth.
Put them in their mouth, right. I mean, I might do that. It smells good. So first of all, there's the kid aspect.
Right.
And the second of all, really, there is no known efficacy of this.
Okay.
Mice are smart. They're looking for food, not cotton balls filled with. They may say, "Ooh, that stinks," and they'll run around it while they're looking for their sandwich.
Right.
So this doesn't really deter a facility from having mice in the facility.
So once again, that's probably one of those things that an adult has been taught.
Yes.
And said, do this.
Yes.
And then since childhood, and they realize it, and they're bringing in an informal practice into a formal setting.
It could be that, or what's also happening, Howard, is that the age of the internet. Is like people are concerned about not using toxins, so they're looking to alternatives, and you get all kinds of snake oil out there, right? So people go on the internet. What's a non-toxic way to control mice? And somebody wrote something about this.
Everyone thinks that it's
and they're like,
real.
oh, I can do that.
Okay.
And on the one hand, it's a good impulse to want to be looking for alternatives and least toxic, and to be actively engaged.
Right.
But in this day and age, it's very difficult to get good, accurate information based on...
So where would we go? I mean, in the training manual, there are websites that people can go to and recommended
In the
websites.
case of integrated pest management, it's really lucky. We have a lot of groups that are university-based, science-based, that are working on IPM in schools and child care centers.
Okay.
And they all have manuals, they have protocols, they have checklists, they have sample contracts for the pest control operator,
Excellent.
And there's tons of resources out there. So,
how often would you recommend professional development around this? Because you know that everyone's time is, stretched in many different ways.
Yes.
Is it once a year, twice a year? Should we have an audit done on a pest control audit, or?
It really depends on your facilities. If you have only a couple centers and you have control over the facility and you don't have high turnover, you could do it once a year, reporting out, what are we seeing, training, hands-on training like we're doing right now. We can do with staff, you can do with staff.
Right.
In other cases, it may have to be more often. If you have more facilities, more turnover, more people involved, in decision-making, it just depends on the ground situation.
All right. Well, I mean, this all makes sense, but I like the fact that you're bringing to our attention these practices, which we have the best intentions, but unfortunately it may not have the results that we desire. So this is good.
I like it, like I say, that people are looking for alternatives and want to take action.
Absolutely. It shows initiative.
Exactly. But you just want to help steer them. Yes, exactly.
To the proper ones. So the cardboard boxes, definitely, we take a look at that. The cotton balls, absolutely, we do that. Everything else looks pretty...
It does. It looks very good. And as long as it's kept clean, I mean, your difficulty here sometimes is it's difficult to move things. Like you have a dishwasher here, and you need to be aware sometimes they leak or whatever, and it's difficult. You'd have to pull it out to see.
Right.
You know, so you just have to be aware that if you're thinking like a pest, what we see is not what they see. They see what's behind there.
Ah, yeah.
You know what? So you wish you had X-ray vision.
Yeah.
Right, but you're always going to have to be looking a little deeper. And that's what your pest control professional should be doing for you. Like they should be monitoring and knowing where to look. So hopefully it's not you that has to actually move this out of the way.
No, we definitely make sure.
But those are the kind of things I would check, you know, and you're always looking for the little signs that pests might leave behind.
Right.
If you found little mouse droppings or whatever, of course that would be a surefire indication, but it looks good.
Thank you.
And these kind of units...
I really have to say, Lynn, the staff, when we first got involved with IPM, they didn't have a clue. And everyone, once again, was like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? And then once they saw that it really does make a difference.
Yeah.
And everything that we talked about reducing those allergens and reducing the exposure to possible pests, then they embraced it.
Yes.
So you make adjustments. That's what we always have to do.
Yeah.
Everything's not 100% at 100% of the
No, it's a process.
It's a process.
Everything's a process. And situations change.
Right.
So, you know, that's why you have ongoing training, because it's a process. So.
Right.
But people usually are very satisfied once they take on an IPM approach because they are preventing pests in the first place. Nobody wants pests.
Right. And you can use this in the home as well.
It's news you can use.
It's news that you can use.
Yes.
So definitely, thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, and we appreciate the technical assistance, because with another set of eyes, it makes it easier for us to make those adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.